Welcome back, my friends, here on Will EduTech. And in the previous lesson, we had looked at filling out our table where we found the missing values in our second column, which is our midpoint, and our third column here, which is our frequency. We found those missing values. So in this video, we're going to be looking at how you determine the modal class interval. So we're going to be looking at the solution to question 7 part B. Now this is pretty easy, the modal class, and let me just underline that word quickly for you. Mode. The word mode simply means the most frequent occurrence. Okay, so basically you're looking for the class that has the highest frequency value. And what do I mean by that, my friends? Basically, I'm going to, when asked to find the modal class, since it's the class that occurs most often, I am going to go in my frequency column and I'm just going to look at the numbers, and I'm choosing the highest value here in my frequency column. If you notice, the first value is 18, then 25, 23, 20, 14. Now basically I am looking for the highest value, so obviously the highest value in my frequency column would be 25. So let's just mark that value. That's the highest value because I'm finding the mode. Now basically from here I'm just going to go across to find which class is that. Now that class would be the class 11 to 20. So my modal class interval would be the class 11 to 20. So let's make a note. Therefore my modal class is equal to, and I'm just going to put that in brackets, 11 to 20. And our correct units are very important. It's in centimeters. Okay, my friends, right there. Now basically that's how you would find it, and that's a pretty easy one, Mark. It's that easy. Yes. And let's look at another question that they could have asked. They didn't ask this question, but however, in future exams, just in case they ask, I just want to give you a thumbs up on how to find the mode. Or okay, so given the fact that, let's say they had another part to this question, they didn't ask it, I'll emphasize that. I'm just showing you this technique. Let's say they had asked us to find the mode from the histogram here. First, since we have found our modal class, since we have identified our modal class to be 11 to 20, what you would do, you would go in that class, the class 11 to 20, which is the second bar. If you notice in my table, it's the second class here. Okay, that is the modal class. So by comparison, when I go over to my graph, it should be the second bar. Okay, so this bar here, my second bar here, what I'm going to do to find the mode, I would have to construct my boundary diagonals. And what do I mean by that? You would basically use your rule, and from the second bar in your histogram, I'm starting from the top left hand corner of my second bar, and what I'm going to do, I'm simply going to use my rule and I'm just going to draw a diagonal straight across to touch the top of the third bar. Okay, my friends, now I've done that, so I'm just going to repeat that process by drawing another diagonal from the top right hand corner now to touch the top of my first bar. Okay, so I'm just drawing a diagonal from my top right hand corner here, and I'm going to oops, that's ugly. Let's try again, and I'm just going to draw it straight to that point. Okay, now basically where these two diagonal lines intersect, that would give you your mode. So basically what you do from here, where the lines intersect, you use your rule and draw a vertical line coming down to touch your x-axis. Now my line, I'm using my free hands. You should always use your rule to get a more accurate drawing. So just bear with me, my friends. Now basically where this line, this is approximately 18 centimeters, okay, in height. So if they ask you for your mode, this is how you would come by your mode from your modal class when working with a histogram. Okay, my friends, and as just said, I'm just giving you a thumbs up on that, just in case they ask. They didn't ask the question, but just in case they ask in a future exam, you would already know how to find the mode. So we can say then that the mode would be equal to 18, and that's just in case they ask. I'm emphasizing that. Now quickly, let's move on. Now, in part 2, they're asking us, B part 2, they're asking us to find the number of seedlings in the sample. And that's another easy 2 marks. Now, quickly, my friends, if they're asking us to find the number of seedlings in the sample, by intuition, or the idea behind this is basically, and this is pretty straightforward, this is basically saying, in my first class, let's look at it carefully. In my first class, 1 to 10, I have an average height. This is what the midpoint is saying, that the average height. I am assuming that in the first class, each seedling has an average height of 5.5 centimeters, okay? And 18 of those seedlings have that average height, okay? Now, in my second class, I am saying that my average height is 15.5, okay? I am assuming that each seedling in that class has an average height of 15.5, and so on and so forth. Now, if they are asking us to calculate the number of seedlings in the sample, then 18 seedlings have an average height of 5.5. 25 seedlings have an average height of 15.5. Then obviously the frequency, the sum of my frequency, when I add up my frequency, okay guys, that would give me the total number of seedlings in the sample. So basically, and let me use this, I'm just going to use a funny notation. It may look weird to some persons. Maybe you're seeing it for the first time, but it's pretty cool. This sign, and I'm just going. It's like a E, okay, turn backwards. It's called sigma. It's a letter in the Greek alphabet, and it means the sum of. Okay, so in math, when you're taking the sum of numbers, you can use this fancy definition, and the name of it is sigma. All right, so really what I'm taking the sum of my frequency, meaning that I'm adding up my frequency. So I'm taking the sum of f. F is for my frequency, and the sum of f would be equal to, and let's just add up these values. 4 plus 0 is 4 plus 3, that would give us a 7. 7 plus 5, that would give us a 12. 12 plus 8, and that would give us a 20. Okay, my friends, so here I would have a 20, so let's put down our 0 and carry our 2. Alright, so here now I would have a 1 plus 2, that's 3. 3 plus 2, that's 5. 5 plus 2, that's 7. 7 plus 1, that's 8. And we have a 2 up there, that would be 10. Okay, so basically, my friends, that's it. The sum of our frequency, sorry, the number of seedlings in the sample is equal to the sum of our frequency. All right, so that's pretty much it. So the number of seedlings in the sample is 100. All right, so we have 100 seedlings in the sample, and it's a pretty easy 2 marks. Now in part 3, they're asking us to find the mean height of the seedlings, and that's another easy 4 marks. So let's just quickly get into that. Now when they're asking us to find the mean height, okay, let me underline this word mean. We can use a symbol to represent that word mean, and just in case you're reading the books and you come across these symbols, I really want you to have a thumbs up. You already know what they mean, so let's just use them up. This symbol here, we call it in math bar x. Okay, there's an x and there's a bar above the x, so bar x is the same as the mean. So whenever you see this symbol, they're asking you to find the mean. So we can say the mean height of the seedlings is equal to the sum of f of x, which I'll be explaining to you in a short while, divided by the sum of f. Okay, so let's just look at that quickly. Now my friends, if you notice what I've done, I've added another column to my table, because here to find the mean we would have to have the sum of f of x. Now let's look at how we find that. Now basically, as I've stated before, that in the first row, what we're simply saying here, we have each seedling in the first row that has an average height of 5.5, and in that group, or in that class rather, there were 18 seedlings that has that height, okay, each having that height. Now in the second class, or in the second row here, we have an average height of 15.5. So each seedling in this class carried an average height of 15.5 centimeters, and we had a total of 25 seedlings in that class. Now, and so on and so forth. In the third class, we had an average height of each seedling was 25.5, and we had 23 seedlings having that height, assuming, and we're assuming these now. Okay, guys? Now, basically, to find this, the f of x, first, before we can find the sum of f of x, we have to find f of x. Now, if there are 18 seedlings with an average height of 5.5, then it simply means then, to get my f of x, I would have to multiply my frequency by my midpoint. And if you notice here, I've put an x there because the midpoint, we usually take the midpoint as x. So quickly, let's just look at this now. Basically, I'm just going to work out the first two to show you what is happening. I am saying my x, which my f of x, my f is 18 in the first row. So I would say 18 multiplied by my midpoint, which is x in that row, corresponding x value 5.5, and that would be equal to 99. Okay, guys? So that's a 99 there I have. So now basically I'm just going to continue that trend. In the second row, I have 25 for my frequency, so my f would be 25. So I'm saying 25 multiplied by my midpoint, which is x, and I'm taking that as 15.5. Okay, and I would have a total of 387.5. Okay, so I would have a 387.5. Okay, guys, and that's a point there. All right, so let's just make it a bit brighter. Yeah. So that's how you would calculate the f of x value. You take your frequency and you multiply by the corresponding x value in that row. Alright, so let's just fill out the rest of the table. My second value would be 23 times 25.5, and that would give us a 586.5. So we would have a 586.5. And then I would say for this row 20 times 35.5, and that would give us a 710. And then I'm saying 14 times 45.5, and that would give us a 637. Okay, now my friends, these value represents our f of x values. So really what we're trying to find out is the sum of our f of x values. Alright, so we need to take the sum of our f of x values, and that would be equal to, when we add up all these values that we have just calculated, 637 plus 710 plus 586.5 plus 387.5 plus 99, we would get a total of 2000, and let's just make a note here, 2420. Okay, so really that's how we calculate the sum of our f of x. All right, now basically to find the mean, as we have it here in our little formula here, the mean is equal to the sum of f of x. So since we have the value for that, we can now substitute by saying 2420 divided by my sum of f, and obviously my sum of f here in the frequency column was 100. Okay, so this apparently would be equal to 2420 divided by 100, and basically when dividing by 100 is as if you're moving to the left. So basically, let's say the point is there. How many zeros we have? We have 1 2 zeros, so it's as if we're jumping 2 places. Okay, my friends, so our answer obviously would be 24.2. So that's our mean. So our mean average, or our mean height of the seedlings is 24.2. All right, now that's basically it. Let's